At exactly 4:17 a.m. local time, the Southern Caribbean was moments away from a confrontation that would end almost as quickly as it began. Two Venezuelan Air Force F-16A fighters raced low over the water at roughly 450 knots. Their mission sounded simple on paper: approach the USS Jason Dunham and pressure the American destroyer to change course. The goal wasn't necessarily to destroy the ship. It was to create a moment that could be broadcast back home, proof that U.S. naval vessels could be challenged in waters close to Venezuela. But somewhere between takeoff and the 12 nautical mile line, that plan began drifting into dangerous territory. Captain Elio Reyes made the decision that would define the entire encounter. Within 93 seconds, the situation would be over. Earlier that morning, the atmosphere inside Venezuelan command circles had been confident. For 3 days, naval observers had monitored the American destroyer, studying its patrol patterns. The USS Jason Dunham, an Arleigh Burke-class vessel, was conducting routine freedom of navigation operations, missions intended to reinforce international maritime law. Caracas viewed those patrols very differently. Leadership wanted a visible response, something dramatic enough to appear on national television. At 3:42 a.m., Captain Reyes taxied his aircraft from a reinforced shelter onto the runway. His F-16A Block 15 carried two AIM-9P Sidewinder missiles mounted on the wingtips and a fully loaded M61 Vulcan cannon. His wingman, Lieutenant Miguel Vargas, carried the same configuration. Together, the two jets represented one of the most capable fighter elements still operating in Venezuela's inventory, aircraft originally designed during the Cold War. Meanwhile, far out at sea, the USS Jason Dunham was already aware of their departure. The destroyer's AN/SPY-1D phased array radar had tracked the aircraft from the moment their wheels left the runway. Unlike traditional rotating radar dishes, the system uses fixed panels that continuously scan the sky with electronic beams. There are no blind spots, no mechanical lag. Every fraction of a second, the radar refreshes the entire picture. The ship's Aegis Baseline 9 combat system began analyzing the aircraft immediately. Speed, altitude, course, climb rate, and probable mission profile were processed automatically. Before the Venezuelan pilots reached cruising altitude, the system had already generated multiple engagement options. Missiles inside the ship's vertical launch system had received preliminary targeting data. The response chain was prepared, waiting only for authorization. Inside the Combat Information Center, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chin watched the display carefully. The room glowed with blue light from tactical screens while quiet electronics processed massive streams of data. Two icons moved across the digital map: Viper 1, Viper 2, high-speed inbound. Aggressive approaches toward naval vessels weren't unheard of, but this one felt different. The flight path was unusually direct. No reconnaissance pattern, no distant observation. These jets were coming straight toward the ship. "All stations," Chin announced. "Weapons posture alpha. Prepare for potential hostile engagement." Across the destroyer, systems came online. The vertical launch system held 96 missile cells ready for action. Standard missile interceptors and evolved Sea Sparrow missiles waited silently beneath armored hatches. At the stern, the Phalanx close-in weapon system began its automated startup cycle. Its 6-barrel cannon spun briefly as sensors aligned. In less than a minute, the entire defensive network was active. 40 nautical miles from the destroyer, Captain Reyes encountered the first sign of resistance. His APG-66 radar began behaving strangely. Contacts flickered, lock tones shifted unpredictably. The destroyer's AN/SLQ 32 electronic warfare suite had already begun transmitting carefully tuned interference signals. These systems are designed to confuse hostile sensors, creating false radar echoes and disrupting tracking systems. Inside the cockpit, Reyes' radar warning receiver lit up with signals from multiple directions. To the aircraft's electronics, the sky suddenly looked crowded with threats. A cautious pilot might have turned away at that moment. Reyes pressed forward. He had orders to challenge the ship, and years of training had reinforced the idea that hesitation could mean failure. He descended to roughly 3,000 feet and accelerated further. Even with his radar compromised, the ship soon became visible on the horizon, a gray silhouette cutting through the ocean, close enough to attempt a strike. "Viper 2, weapons free," Reyes transmitted. "Fox 2." The phrase signaled the launch of a heat-seeking missile. Reyes selected his right side AIM-9P Sidewinder and aligned the seeker head toward the destroyer. The missile's infrared sensor searched for a heat signature. Modern destroyers are built to minimize exactly that vulnerability. Their exhaust systems are designed to disperse heat and reduce the infrared signature of the engines. But at 12 nautical miles, even reduced heat can sometimes be detected. The missile's tone changed. The seeker believed it had found a target. Reyes squeezed the trigger. The Sidewinder dropped from the wing rail and ignited instantly. A white trail of smoke streaked across the sky as the missile accelerated toward the USS Jason Dunham at more than twice the speed of sound. 3 seconds later, Lieutenant Vargas launched his own missile. 2 AM-9P Sidewinders were now racing toward the destroyer. In that moment, the encounter crossed a critical line. What had started as a dangerous approach had now become an armed attack. Inside the ship's Combat Information Center, the response was immediate. Engage inbound missiles. ESSM, 2 rounds. The forward vertical launch cells opened and 2 RIM-162 evolved Sea Sparrow missiles blasted upward on pillars of flame. The ESSM is built specifically for short-range defense against fast incoming threats. Each interceptor weighs over 600 pounds and carries a fragmentation warhead packed with tungsten fragments designed to destroy missiles and aircraft at close range. But the real advantage lies in its maneuverability. Using thrust vector control, the ESSM can perform turns approaching 50 times the force of gravity during the final moments of interception, movements no human pilot could survive. Against that kind of response, the incoming Sidewinders had little chance. The AIM-9P design dates back decades. It was effective in its time, especially against other aircraft, but against a modern naval defense network, it was far outmatched. The first intercept occurred roughly 6 nautical miles from the ship. The ESSM's proximity sensor detonated its warhead at exactly the calculated distance. Thousands of tungsten fragments burst outward at extreme speed, shredding the incoming missile. Fragments of rocket casing and guidance fins scattered into the sea. 3 seconds later, the second intercept happened. Another flash in the sky, another missile destroyed before reaching its target. From detection to destruction, the entire defensive sequence had taken about 11 seconds. But stopping the missiles was only the first step. Lieutenant Commander Chin issued the next order. Engage hostile aircraft, SM-2, Fox 3. The aft missile cells opened and 2 Standard Missile 2 interceptors launched into the sky. These were not short-range defensive weapons. The SM-2 is designed for long-range engagements and can reach speeds well above Mach 3. Against 2 fighters flying just 12 nautical miles away, the engagement timeline was extremely short. Captain Reyes saw the bright launch flashes from the destroyer's deck. His training recognized them instantly. Standard missiles. He had seconds to react. Both Venezuelan aircraft had already used their primary weapons. Their radar systems were still struggling against electronic interference, and the destroyer's fire control radar was now guiding the interceptors toward them with precise updates. The missiles closed the distance rapidly. Moments later, radar contact with both aircraft disappeared. Within less than 2 minutes from the first missile launch, the engagement was over. For the destroyer's crew, the sequence had unfolded almost entirely through automated systems, guided by radar and computers designed to process threats faster than human reaction time. For Venezuela, the cost was far greater. 2 fighter aircraft valued at tens of millions of dollars were gone. Years of pilot training and operational capability disappeared with them. The United States Navy had expended 2 ESSM interceptors and 2 SM-2 missiles, a total cost of several $millions. In return, the destroyer had eliminated the attacking aircraft and recorded detailed data from the entire encounter. Radar signatures, communication patterns, and tactical decisions. Within hours, diplomatic channels erupted. Officials in Caracas condemned the outcome. Washington responded by presenting the timeline of events. The key detail was clear. The Venezuelan missiles had been launched first. Under international maritime law, the destroyer's response qualified as self-defense. What had been intended as a dramatic show of strength instead turned into a difficult moment for Venezuelan leadership. Search teams later combed the waters where radar contact had been lost. Helicopters from the destroyer located only scattered debris, fragments of metal drifting across the sea. By the end of the day, Venezuelan naval and air patrols had withdrawn closer to their coastline. The aggressive posture that morning had quickly faded. The encounter revealed a broader reality about modern warfare. Success is rarely decided by individual bravery alone. Today, it often depends on integrated systems, networks of radar, sensors, and computers capable of detecting threats and responding within seconds. Captain Reyes had experience, skill, and determination. but he was facing a system designed to process and react faster than any individual pilot could. By the afternoon, the USS Jason Dunham resumed its patrol. The Caribbean returned to its calm blue surface as if nothing had happened. Beneath the water, scattered wreckage slowly settled onto the ocean floor, a silent reminder of how quickly a confrontation at sea can escalate, and of how, in modern naval encounters, the outcome is often shaped long before the first missile leaves the rail. If you found this breakdown interesting and want to hear more stories about real-world military encounters and the technology behind them, consider subscribing and sharing the video.